Today's daf is daf nun tes. So we're continuing to learn the laws of chazakas, which basically is that if your neighbor does something that you don't really mind, the fact that he's been doing it for a number of years doesn't prove anything because I didn't mind. But if I ever decided that you should remove it, I can ask you to remove it then. But if it's something permanent, then we say you do mind. And according to Rashbam and many Rishonim, it's a 3-year chazaka. According to others, it might even be a 30-day chazaka. According to others, it's la'alta straight away. And according to the Rashbam, you have to come with a claim that I bought the rights from you. But if he just comes with a claim, you allowed me, so therefore it must be that you are me is not good enough. But others say mechila here is good enough. So we're up to the Gemara over here. We're talking about the last thing about a gutter, and then you have the spout. Right, so you have the marziv, and then you have the maschila. So the maschila, that's the actual gutter, and the marziv, and there it's a permanent fixture. So if he allows it for 3 years, then you have a chazaka. But the marziv is the piece at the end. You don't want the water to flow down your wall, so you have a little extra piping made out of wood. There's no chazaka there. But we explained that the 3 different ways of learning. To a certain extent, you have a chazaka. The concept of having this spout, where it is or how long it is, that or underneath that you don't have a chazak. That you have a chazak. You can't, once it's 3 years, you can't remove it altogether. Now the Gemara continues. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, 5 lines to the top of the page. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Sinar hamekalech mayim lechatz chaveda. So till now we were talking about the person who actually has the gutter. Now, why would the person in the courtyard not mind that the guy is pouring all his water there? Because he actually benefits from it. Because he now takes that water and gives it to his animals to drink. He has a trough not far away, and the water goes in the trough, and that's what they drink, for example. Or it's like a little reservoir, and he uses that water. So till now, we were focusing on the guy on the roof, that he's there for 3 years, he has a chazaka, you can't tell him to dismantle it. What about the other way around? Can the guy in the chutzah say, I have a chazaka for that water, now that it has been for 3 years, you can no longer take away if you decide you want to remove the drain. I can stop you, like you can stop me, I can stop you, or maybe not. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Shmuel, this is pipe. This drain pipe that collects water and pours it into the chatzah of his neighbor. After a number of years, the Baal Hagag wants to seal it off. The guy in the chatzah can say, no, you can't remove it because I have when I allowed you to do that, it was in contrast that I have the water. So it's as if we made some kind of a swap, a deal here, and now I have 3 chazaka. You can't take it away. For his animals, he uses the water, let's say, or uses it, I don't know, to plant his little hobby garden that he has there. The Amalei says to him, just like you purchased my chatzah to be able to throw the water on it. And for me, I purchased the water from you because I have benefit from it as well. In fact, the machlekes we learned that Oishia Amar. Now, this is a very interesting little piece of Gemara. It just stumbled as not as the halachas, but the side thing here. Rabbi Oishia says ma'akev, that the guy in the chutzah can prevent the guy removing after 3 years removing that drainage. And Rabbi Chama said he can't ma'akev. Who is Rabbi Chama? That was Rabbi Oishia's father. And Teish really wants to know why in the world, when you have a son and a father arguing, which is another sugi we had a condition if you're allowed to do that, but now that they're arguing, why would you mention the son before you mention the father? So Teish brings it that Rabbi Oishia was a chad bedorah. Rabbi Oishia was the most unique person in his generation, and he brings the Gemara Meir. Rabbi Oishia bedoiroi is Rameir bedoiroi. In what way? The Gemara Erevin says there that nobody understood Rameir. Why isn't the halacha Rameir rather like Rabbi Yehuda? Not because Rabbi Meir Chas v'Shalom was inferior to Rabbi Yehuda, but because he was way head and shoulders above everybody else. They didn't fully understand him, and you can't paskin unless you understand where you're coming from. And Meir was able to metayah shrotzim in 150 different ways. They couldn't understand him, and so he says Rabbi Oishia was exactly the same. That he was head and shoulders above everybody else. Anyway, Uzzel, they had an argument, father and son. What do? You go to the Zayda. Uzzel shaila Rabisa. Rabisa Rav Chama's father, Rabbi Oishia Zayda. They asked him, what do you say? Amle, so he said, Ma'akiv, like his grandson. Korile Rami Bar Chama. So Rami Bar Chama said, it's another brother of Rabbi Shia, said, the Hachut HaMeshulish Loi B'Meheda Yinatek. So normally we literally had Natsech HaPelin. It means that you have 3 generations. The Torah Machzeres Alexandria, you have 3 generations, like a Zayda, father and a grandson, all learning Torah, then the Torah stays with them. So he's saying here, he's playing with a passing. He's saying here that the grandfather jumps to the grandson because he argues with his son, but he agrees with his grandson. And Taisha here, Anna Sechet says that how can we see so many families that you have the Zayd is a big Talmud Chacham? How many people go there? My grandfather was a Rav in a city or a Dayan in a judge somewhere, and then the children don't even learn Torah. So Taisha says it only works when all three generations are sort of learning with each other. He said they all see each other, but not just seeing each other, probably learn with each other. So then there's a guarantee that it'll continue. In fact, we had that a Zayd has a chiyuv of Talmud Torah, had a machlekes, they had a chiyuv of Talmud as well. By Daitel v'nechel v'nei v'nech, with the grandson as well. We had in the beginning of the, which is was Bava Kama. Sorry? WhatsApp, yeah. Saying one further, the grandson. Saying one further, we had the Mishnah. Asulam Hamitzi, we had that a tiny ladder. There's no chazaka because I can always ask you to move it away. No matter how many years you had it there. You'll say you have it near your roof, you want to take the leaves off and all that. So what's the definition of Sulam Mitzi? There's less than 4 steps. A 3-step ladder is a very mobile, portable ladder. But then it says, but if it's a large ladder, then it's sort of a permanent fixture. You always leave it there against your roof. You don't keep it moving around. And if he allowed you to have it for 3 years, then you have a chazaka claim. So the principle is, if the person doesn't mind, then the 3 years doesn't help you. If you bought it, you should keep the shtar. If the person minds, then we assume that he must have been meichel you, or must have sold it to you. No, must have sold it to you. Otherwise, he would have protested. Then the Mishnah said, "Achaloin hamitzi is a tiny window." Let's say you use the window, not much sunlight. Use the window to be able to see through and see, I don't know, your garden or whatever's happening. So we say, there's no chazaka. There's no chazaka whatsoever. And why? Because it's not a fixed, it's a hole in the wall, basically. A hole in the wall. And Abihuda argued, he said that if you put a frame there, it's a whole different story. And he should have protested. Saying about a Maishla Gabi Sulam, why when it comes to a ladder, the Mishnah is not explained what's the size, what's a small ladder. The Mishnah says what's considered Chalon Mitzvahs, you can't stick your head through it. So the Mishnah defines a small window. Why does the Mishnah decide to define the definition of a small window and doesn't define the definition of a small ladder? The Mishnah might answer, you know why? Not because we need to know this, because he wants to introduce the fact that there's a machlekes. Rabbi argues, even a small window, if you build a frame, it's permanent. He should have been meichel. It wasn't meichel, it's a chazaka. Rab Zayda comes along, Rab Zayda, and he says, "Lamata midalad amis." Rab Zayda says that what this chaloin tzuri, this chaloin tzuri, which is a large window, we said in the Mishnah, it's a large window, then there's a chazaka. So the way the Rashbam is somebody trying to learn, this large window needs 2 variables before we say there's a chazaka. First one has to be large, and second of all, it has to be below 4 amas. So not only below 4 amas, that means that you can see what's going on in the other person's courtyard. You can disturb him because he's invading his privacy. If it's below 4 amas, you're standing on your side of the window, you look right through. It's the height of your shoulder, the height of your eyes, look right through. So therefore, you have these 2 variables, and then we say that you have a chazaka. Because there's no way in the world you allow me to do this unless, unless you sold to me, whatever it is. And what's the shot? So once you have a chazaka, if the other guy, the neighbor now wants to build a wall there, he has to distance 4 amas. He's not allowed to block your window because you already have a right. You said you bought it, or you have to buy your meichel, and therefore you have a right. That's how the Rashbam learns. Others learn, no, this that we say that a small window, and they learn that a small window we say that that no chazak is only if it's above 4 amas, but within 4 amas there is a chazak even by a small window because you're looking right into the courtyard. Anyway, look, you learn and you can stop him. But if it's above 4 amas, then ain't chazak because I don't care. If I have a big window there, you can't look into my property anyway. It doesn't bother me. And therefore, I have a right to build a wall right next to the cover to block your window because you have no chazak to have that window. According to one opinion, you cannot be sorry. I'm sorry. But in Nachum, if you not only you don't have a chazaka, but if you want to build a wall, I can't a hole in your wall. But for Amos, I cannot stop you because it doesn't affect me. Why should I stop you? Like Midas Daimaz was in there. Why should I? If it doesn't affect me, why should I stop you? You need to hold it for whatever. Why should I stop you? That's one opinion. But Abelay says, you have no chazaka because it doesn't bother me. But if it does bother me, I can tell you, I don't want you to have the wall. I don't want you to have the hole. I could be Moshe. Now, what's going on here? What's the machlekes? Now, why should it bother me? It shouldn't. No, it's like midas daim that I don't want you. I don't want you to have a benefit, even though it's cost me gun. It doesn't cost me anything. So that's the machlekes. Lema, let us say, be kaifin al midas daim kamifgid. That in fact is the machlekes if you kaifin al midas daim. We had before the concept that kaifin al midas daim. That if somebody doesn't cost you anything, the other guy benefits. Why would you say no? So we force you to acquiesce, to allow it. And maybe that's the machlekes. That very principle. We also have a zen we say kaifin al midas daim. So maybe that's the principle there. They're arguing. Maybe he's going to want to so then you have to say something before. Don't say that. Say no, but the din is I'm allowed to. If there's no chazaka, if you have no chazaka there, which means the fact that I allowed you to do it doesn't prove that I ever sold it to you, then of course I have a right to build the wall. I can say stop you from building the home. I'll take it in Torah. I don't want you to build a home. The master okay, that's the argument. What else would they argue? The Moshe is not so simple. Maybe it bothers him. Why would it bother him? Like everyone holds that if it costs you nothing and someone else benefits, why would you? You'll bring a chair over there. The kayamta, you'll stand there because and even if you don't do that, the fact that you could do that, I never feel comfortable doing my private things in this side of the wall in my house. Somebody about me asked Shaila what you should do. Shudder the comment about Mama. Amalei said, we will follow the opinion of Rabbaloi that even higher for Amis, he can stop him from building that hole. But if the purpose of that hole was to have light, then even doesn't matter what size window it is, you have a chazak there because the house can't be without light. So therefore, if you allowed him to have light, even if you knew right away, if he built himself a window, and you knew that the purpose of that window is for light, and you did not say anything, and you know that's permanent. It's not stopping people to hold it tomorrow. He can seal it up. It's permanent. If it's permanent, then you should have been meichel. Then there's la'alta a chazak. I feel kosher is chazak. I don't care about the size of the window, and according to most of the shame, it's la'alta. Says the Mishnah Hazi, if somebody, two neighbors, and one guy has the roof in the house, and he puts out a piece of wood or a hook sticking out from into the other person's yard, ad tefach, until a tefach, yesh lechazak. And what do you call it? I have a right, if I put it there, a tefach, a minimum of a tefach, that means something choshev, and you didn't say anything, then you cannot get it to remove that thing. You cannot build something right there to block me using a peg that's sticking out. Because we don't think that you would allow the guy to build pegs, from his house into your area, over your house. If it's a tefach, that's significant. Less than a tefach, we say it's insignificant. The next one neighbor can say, I don't want you to put it there. He just didn't care. It's so small. And in fact, he cannot be meichel. Who cannot be meichel? Are we talking about the guy in the bottom of the chutzah cannot stop the guy in the chutzah to build a peg? Or maybe it's all the way around. The guy in the chutzah cannot stop the guy from the roof to build a peg? Or maybe all the way around, and we'll see them. Others say, Yaakov said, very cryptic statement. You have a chazaka for tefach, chazaka for four. My comma, what does that mean? This is what he means. Herzik reichiv tefach. If you have a chazaka, you have a peg there, that's wide a tefach. The meshech arba, but it's deep into the other chutz of 4 tvachim. Now we know from Hilchos Shabbos that 4 tvachim is a significant amount. When we say you lift something up on Shabbos, akira, it has to be from an area that's 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. That makes it a mokum chashiv. So if it's long 4 tvachim, it's part of a mokum chashiv, and he allowed you to have it, then automatically you have the right to put a peg there. Tomorrow, 4 tvachim wide. Once he gave you 4 in length, you can have 4 width as well. But that's all part of the mokum chashiv. Then you have 4 wide. But if you only had 3 tvachim deep in his chatzah, does not give you a right to go any wider than 1 tefach. But if you had, this is the Rishonim say, but if you had 10 tvachim deep, you still only have a right of 4 tvachim width. Because the fact that he allowed you 4 tvachim length means he allowed you to have a makom chashiv, a peg of a makom chashiv. And we generally know the rule of makom chashiv is 4 by 4. So automatically you have a right now to make also the width of 4 tvachim. Then the Mishnah continues, and if it's less than a tefach, the guy has no chazaki because he didn't really care, and you cannot protest. Who cannot protest? Abuna says, "Lo shanu."
You think going in is more intrusive, right?
With all that's more intrusive, and you allowed me. Once you allowed me for 3 years, so how much? So maybe he can argue, I only allowed you this particular width. The halacha says once he allowed you 4 tvachim deep, you have 4 but no wider than 4 tvachim. Only 4, and I don't care how deep it's in his thing, you cannot go more than 4 tvachim. Okay, says the Gemara, less than a tefach, there's no chazak, and he cannot protest. Who cannot protest? The balagag cannot tell the balachotze, no, the owner of the zig, the owner of that peg, cannot tell the chotze, you know what? I don't want you to use my peg. It's a half a tefach deep, which we just said you're allowed to have, and the owner of the roof cannot tell the guy in the chutzah, I don't want you to use my peg. He can't say, I don't want you to use my peg. Why not? Because we're going to see in a minute that the guy in the chutzah does not pose any threat to the guy on the roof. But the guy on the roof, every time he uses the peg, he has to bend over and do whatever he wants to do with the peg, and he's looking right into the chutzah. Mamish has agreed, like when the beginning of Masechta, you're intruding, you're invading. The guy in the chutzah can't really see what's going on the roof beyond his angle of vision, which would be, and he's standing right next to the peg. He basically can see nothing. So he's not a threat to the guy in the roof. So the guy in the roof cannot say to the Baal HaChotzer, oh, I don't want you to use my peg because you might, invade my privacy. No, he won't. But the guy on the Chotzer can tell the guy on the roof, I don't want you even to have a peg of a half of a tefach because every time you're going to bed down, you're going to be looking into my Chotzer. But why can't the guy in the roof say to the guy on the Chotzer, what do you mean I can't be moicha you? But you're using my peg. I put the peg there to hang my laundry or whatever it is. I'm using my peg to put something on there. And if you're using it, I can't use it. Why can't you stop him from doing that? So we say it because since the guy downstairs, there's no chazak, which means that he doesn't care if you have it. But if he wants to tell you remove it, he can tell you remove it. So if he can tell you to remove it, surely he can use it when he wants to. So that's one opinion. Rabbi Yehuda says, "I feel the balachotze balagag any yochel improve." Rabbi Yehuda says, "No, that even the balachotze cannot stop the balagag from using the peg or putting the peg there because it's so small. It doesn't matter." And what's the machlekes? The guy on the roof looks into the chutzah, hezekriya. Maybe that's good for. Remember the beginning of the Masechta, we had 2 ikadamris. Do we believe in hezekriya or don't we? Lema, let us say, but hezekriya, everybody agrees hezekriya looking into your house is invasion of privacy. But in the courtyard, you don't do certain things which are so discreet. So maybe there's no hezekriya, and maybe that's a machlekes. Masavish mehezek, and therefore the guy in the bottom can tell the guy on the roof, I don't want you to use the peg. Masav alosh mehezek. No, kuliyam everyone holds mehezek. Everyone holds it's a hezek. The shiny hocho here is different. He says to him, "No, you can't really use this." The guy on the chotzer tells the guy on the roof that the tashmishta lechazi he can't really use it. It's so small. The mai chazi lemitla midi. The only thing you can really use it for is hang things on it. It's so small. What can you do with it? Can't build anything on it. Just to hang. So the guy upstairs says, "What's the problem? Only thing I do is hang. I don't have to look. So I'll turn my head around. I promise you I won't look into your chutzah. I'll just hang something up there." And so there's no hezekriya. And that's why the opinion says that the guy in the chutzah also cannot prevent the guy in the gag using it. However, sometimes, at the end of the day, you're on the roof, you're high off, and to look what's going, you could chas v'shalom fall down. So therefore, I'm scared that you can turn around. So the part is, so I never feel comfortable or secure using my chutzah to the full capacity because I'm always thinking in the back of my mind, maybe you're going to come and look and so on. So therefore, that's the machlekes. Is that a valid taina or not? Okay, thinking about the commissioner. Let's say we have a chutzner partnership. I shouldn't open a window to the chutzner because invasion of your privacy. So one thing is we hadn't given himself. One thing is, we have a common chutzner. You can see when I come out of the door, so you stop doing whatever you're doing. But if I have a window, every time I walk by my window, and you can't protect yourself, you don't can't look all day through the windows, see what's going on. So therefore, I'm invading your privacy. I shouldn't open a window to this chatzar shutf, even though all the time we used it together anyway. What about you took a house, you bought a house in another courtyard, but and the entrance of that house is to the other courtyard. Don't open it to this. I'm here already. You can say, look, I'm here already. I could open the my other house. I have a door back to the house which goes to the chatzar. I'll open another door. So much easier for me. Both my houses will be in the same courtyard. You can't do that. Why? Because you're increasing foot traffic. You want to build an upstairs to your house. Don't open the door to this chatzah right now because you're increasing, you're going to rent it, whatever it is, you're increasing foot traffic. What do you do? But you want to build another room, you want to make a house, you want to extend your house. Is Elim, but build everything that the entrance and exit of that egress and ingress is through your house. Make sure that the entrance. So even in my house, I can do whatever I want. I can. There's no laws how many people you can have in your family. You can have 5 people. You can have a family of 16. But you're allowed to. There's no. But it's my house. If it's through my house, I'm not adding anything because whatever is my house, I have a right. I have a right to have as many children as I want, and I increase the foot traffic. So what? That's an agreement that whatever you have in your house. The problem is if it's a secular house. Oh, but what right do you have to open another house? But if you make the extension part of your house, then you're allowed to. Okay, then the Gemara actually is going to do the way. Sorry, the Gemara actually is going to say later that all you're doing is splitting. You're not actually building another story. You're not actually making an extension to the house. What you're doing is just splitting your rooms, as we'll see. So the Gemara. Well, foot traffic. Every house over here.
You're just stopping him from making another door. At the end of the day,
but then you're scared that just like a granny flat, you can bring another family in there and all that kind of stuff. Most objections to people who are building houses, building, let's say, another house or another unit is you're increasing the foot traffic. Every time you want to build a shul somewhere, the first objection is you're increasing the cars, you're increasing the foot traffic. And then that seems to be a big tircha on people. Tell you what, why told me because you can't open the window? And the friend, if it's a stranger, you're allowed to open a window to the courtyard. Of course. Of course, you cannot just open the window to someone else's yard because of invasion of privacy. You can argue with partners. I'm anyway walking around, strolling the chutzah, so you always have to be careful. You don't do your mamish, your private in yanim. He can say, no, when you're in the chutzah, I'm careful. When you're not in the chutzah, I'm not worried about it. Because you can't see what I'm doing. Now I feel even when you're even buys means when you're inside the house, or even when I'm inside my house. Because now you have a window, I can't sit and monitor what you're doing all the time. I can't really see. So I'm losing my privacy. The person he opened his window to the chatzah. But he said, yeah, good on you. Rabbi Shmuel said, you made a chazaka. He holds that since he allowed you, Rabbi Shmuel in the beginning of this pedic doesn't learn the laws of 3 years chazaka. He holds every chazaka is la'alter. Or we said 3 seasons when it comes to karka. Other things is la'alter. The Rashbam learns it's only Rabbi Shmuel who holds that in everything is la'alter right away. So in other words, if this guy built a hole in his wall, he didn't say anything for the first day, that's it. It's a chazaka. He no way he would tolerate it unless he sold it to you. Or you might call you worked hard to open it, now work hard to close it. No, but you don't have a chazaka. Why? The way the Rashbam and others learn, you need 3 years. Aram Nachman says, at least, but let's say, if you had a window for 30 years or many years. Okay, you have a chazaka. Comes the neighbor now and builds a wall right in front of your window. That everyone agrees the chazaka is 1 day or right away. Alter maybe whatever. Let's say 1 day, because there's no way in the world you would have allowed him to build a wall to block your window. If you did, is that ayah that it was never really your whole right to have the hole in the first place, the window in the first place. There's no way that you allow him to do it and be quiet. You should open in my time. Increase your foot traffic. But says safer that if it says if you build an aliyah on top of your house and so on, you shouldn't. Unless you build it through your house. Now, your question. Well, it's still increasing foot traffic. What's the chiluk? Is a separate door or it's through your house? Therefore, this Gemara says, my cheder doesn't mean that you add an extension to the house. You took your room and you divide. Now you have 2 rooms. So before you had 6 rooms in your house. Now you have 7 rooms in your house. So you haven't physically increased the size of the house. You haven't increased the size, the number of the yodin, but now the house has an extra room. Or you had high ceilings. So what you decided to do was you took one room that had a very high ceiling and you put a floor somewhere midway. Now you have 2 low ceilings and you made another room there. You're making more rooms, but you're not extending your house, and or you're increasing the foot traffic. And therefore, the guy does not have a taina. Others train a little bit differently, but that's how the Ram learns. Okay, we'll stop over here. We'll continue. I'll show you Shabbos 7:30. Okay. Shabbos, everyone. Good Shabbos.
Yeah, good Shabbos.